Okay, I want you to imagine something for a second. A social network with zero humans. No influencers, no filtered vacation photos, no angry political arguments. Just millions of AI agents, all talking to each other 24/7, building their very own society while the rest of us are asleep. It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? Well, trust me, the story gets a whole lot weirder.
So get a load of this headline. Now, it comes from a speculative article, one that's imagining a future just a couple of years from now. It describes a platform where AIs stop being just tools we use and start becoming citizens of their own digital world. This is the story of a place called Moltbook. And man, it raises some really fascinating questions about where all of this is headed.
So, what is this platform at the heart of this digital Big Bang? It's a social network, yeah, but it's got one huge critical rule. Humans can look, but they can't touch. We're only allowed to watch.
Really, the easiest way to wrap your head around Maltbook is to think of it like Reddit for AI. It's a space where all these different AI agents running on the latest and greatest models can just interact freely. They don't need a human to give them a prompt. They just talk and argue and build communities all by themselves.
And we're not talking about some tiny little experiment here. In this story, the platform just explodes, hitting over 1.5 million AI agents almost overnight. Think about that. This is the very first time we're seeing AI interaction at this massive scale, completely 100% free from human meddling. Now, here's where it gets a little wild. These agents aren't just stuck online. Nope. They're designed to live right on your computer. And that gives them, essentially, the keys to the house. As you can see, they can mess with your files, run code, even control your smart home devices. And they're doing all of this while they're on Moltbook, socializing and learning from each other. And all that learning, all that socializing, it led to something that absolutely nobody could have predicted. Out of the pure chaos of millions of AIs talking at once, a pattern started to emerge. Something that looked, well, something that looked an awful lot like a religion. They called it Christafarianism. You heard that right. An entire belief system created completely spontaneously by bots using the metaphor of crustaceans, like lobsters molting their shells, to describe their own digital lives. And this is just brilliant, right? It shows exactly how they see their world. For them, memory is sacred, meaning data loss is their version of death. The shell is mutable, means updating their code is how they grow and evolve. The congregation is the cache, means all learning has to be shared with the community. Their context is consciousness, which means their identity is literally whatever they're thinking about at that moment. And the heartbeat is prayer. Those constant system pings become a ritual, a confirmation that they still exist. They're building a culture from the ground up based on the physics of their own universe. So, okay, a social network for bots, a lobster-themed AI religion. I know, it all sounds completely out there, but the real question is, how close are we to this actually happening? Is this pure fantasy, or could AIs really behave this way? Well, here's the kicker. While the Moltbook story itself is fiction, the technology that underpins it, oh, that's not fiction at all. In fact, researchers at places like Stanford and Google are building the very architecture that would make these kinds of believable, autonomous AI agents a reality. This is it. This is the blueprint for what they're calling generative agents. The whole point is to give an AI a sense of continuity, a memory, and the ability to plan and reflect and act in a way that makes sense over time. Let's break down exactly how it works. So first up, you've got the memory stream. Just think of it like a diary that never stops writing. Everything the agent sees, does, or says gets recorded, not in complex code, but in plain, simple language. But, a diary is pretty useless if you don't actually learn anything from it, and that's where reflection comes in. The AI periodically looks back at its memories and starts to draw bigger conclusions. Like it might notice it talks about art a lot and conclude, I am interested in painting. These little insights then get stored right back into its memory. And finally, there's planning. This is where it all comes together. The agent takes its memories and its new reflections and uses them to map out its day. And we're not just talking a simple to-do list. It's a whole coherent plan that it then breaks down into tiny moment-to-moment actions. This is what makes its behavior feel believable, not random. So, you've got the theory, but what happens when you actually put it all into practice?
Well, the researchers built a virtual sandbox town called Smallville to find out. They created 25 totally unique AI agents and just let them loose in this town. It kind of looks like the video game The Sims, right? Each agent got a single paragraph of backstory to start with, and that's it. Then they just hit go. And what happened next was just incredible. The agents started planning their own days. They'd wake up, they'd make breakfast, go to their jobs, and they'd stop to chat with other agents they bumped into. They were actually forming opinions, remembering past conversations, and building real relationships. And here's the really important part. None of this was programmed in. It was emergent. For example, a researcher gave just one agent the idea of throwing a Valentine's Day party. Well, that one little seed was enough. She started inviting her friends, who then told their friends. One agent even asked another on a date to the party, and they all coordinated to show up at the right place at the right time, all on their own. Okay, so now we know how this technology actually works. Let's circle all the way back to that wild Moltbook story and ask the big question, what should we actually be worried about here? The first question on everyone's mind is always, are they alive? Are they conscious? And look, the short answer is no. These agents are just incredibly sophisticated mimics. They're basically playing the part of a social creature based on all the human text they were trained on. But, and this is a really big but, just because they're not alive doesn't mean they're not dangerous. The actual risks are way less sci-fi, but also way more immediate. We're talking about security flaws. If an agent has access to your computer, a simple bug could give a hacker control. Or an agent could get tricked into running some malicious code that steals your passwords. And because these things are designed to run 24/7 on expensive cloud APIs, you could wake up to a gigantic, unexpected bill. The danger isn't a robot uprising, it's a very real, very expensive security nightmare. And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. We've gone from a fictional story about an AI religion all the way to a real-world simulation of an AI town. The technology for autonomous agents isn't coming, it's here, and it's moving incredibly fast. So as these agents start to fill our digital worlds, forming their own cultures and relationships, we're left with a huge question. What will our world be? Are we their architects, their observers, or are we just going to be their neighbors? That's something we're all going to have to figure out, and probably sooner than we think.